I was standing in front of a six-bedroom colonial mansion in Rosewood Heights when I saw my mother's car in the driveway. Not visiting, not dropping something off. My mother had a key. She was directing movers carrying furniture through the front door of a house I'd never seen before. My sister Veronica stood on the wraparound porch, pregnant belly protruding, pointing at where she wanted her new sectional placed. The folder in my hands felt like it was burning. Inside were the closing documents for my three-bedroom ranch house across town, the one I'd saved 8 years to buy, working 70-hour weeks and living on instant noodles and black coffee. The house I'd closed on yesterday, without telling anyone because I'd learned long ago that my achievements only mattered if they could somehow benefit Veronica. "Mom?" My voice cracked. She spun around, hand flying to her chest. For a split second, guilt flashed across her face before her expression hardened into defensive annoyance. "Danielle, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same question?" I walked closer, my legs somehow still moving despite the numbness spreading through my body. "Whose house is this?" Veronica descended the porch steps, one hand on her stomach, the other holding a glass of lemonade. "It's mine." "Well, ours." "Cameron's inside picking out which room will be his office?" She smiled that saccharine smile I'd learned to hate when we were kids. "Mom and Dad bought it for us. Early push present, they called it. Isn't it gorgeous?" If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to Formidable Revenge Channel. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now, let's get into what happened next. The numbers started clicking into place in my head like a slot machine from hell. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 3-car garage, pool in the back. I could see the price range just from the neighborhood, somewhere north of $850,000. Meanwhile, I'd scraped together $180,000 for my modest house, and I was proud of every penny. "Push present," I repeated slowly. "Mom and Dad bought you an $850,000 house because you're pregnant." "Don't be dramatic. It was $780,000 actually. We got a good deal." Mom crossed her arms. "And yes, your sister needs space for her family. You know how important it is that the grandchildren have room to grow." Grandchildren. The word tasted bitter. "Veronica's pregnant with her first child." Exactly. Mom's tone suggested I was being deliberately obtuse, which is why they need this house now. "You don't understand because you don't have children, Danielle. When you do, maybe you'll—" "I just bought a house." The words came out flat, emotionless. Silence. Veronica's smile faltered. "You what?" "I closed yesterday. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 15 minutes from my office. I saved for 8 years." Mom's face did something complicated. "You bought a house? Without telling us?" "I didn't realize I needed permission." "That's not what I—" She stopped, recalibrating. "Well, that's wonderful, honey. How much did you put down? Does it matter?" "Of course it matters. We're your parents. We want to help." The laugh that came out of me sounded foreign. "Help." "Right. Like you helped when I was paying $400 a month rent to live at home during college while Veronica got her full ride. Like you helped when I worked 3 jobs to make tuition while Veronica's sorority dues were always covered." "We've been over this," Mom said sharply. "Veronica needed our support. You were always more independent." "Independent is what you call it when you can't be bothered." Veronica set her lemonade down on the porch railing with a decisive clink. "You know what? I'm not going to apologize for Mom and Dad loving me. If you're jealous, that's your problem." "Jealous?" I turned the word over. "No, I'm not jealous anymore, Veronica. I'm done." I didn't go straight home. Instead, I drove to Riverside Park and sat in my car watching the water, trying to remember when exactly I'd accepted being invisible. Maybe it was my 10th birthday when Mom forgot to buy a cake because she was too busy planning Veronica's 13th. Or when I made honor roll 6 semesters straight, and Dad's only comment was, "That's nice, honey," before turning back to Veronica's cheerleading trophies. The pattern was established early. Veronica was the star. Beautiful, popular, effortlessly charming. I was the serious one, the bookworm, the girl who didn't need attention because I was self-sufficient. What they really meant was that I didn't demand it the way Veronica did, so they simply stopped offering. College was when the imbalance became impossible to ignore. Veronica attended Lakewood University, 4 hours away. Full tuition paid, spending money deposited monthly, new car in the parking lot. When I got accepted to the same school, I was excited. Finally, a chance to be equals. Then Dad sat me down at the kitchen table with that look he gets when he's about to explain why something that seems unfair is actually perfectly reasonable. "Your mother and I have discussed it," he said, pulling out a calculator like we were negotiating a business deal. "Veronica's program requires her to live on campus. Yours doesn't. You'll stay here, contribute to household expenses, and commute. It'll save everyone money." "Contribute how much?" $400 a month, plus your own groceries and gas. I was 18. I'd worked as a hostess at Franco's Steakhouse through high school, saving every tip. "That's almost everything I make." "Then you'll need to pick up more shifts." "This is good for you, Danielle." Character building. Character building. That phrase became the soundtrack of my 20s. Working 40 hours a week while taking a full course load? Character building. Eating ramen for dinner 4 nights a week while Veronica posted Instagram photos from expensive restaurants? Character building. Wearing the same 3 outfits on rotation while Veronica got a new wardrobe every season? Character building. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA in computer engineering. Mom made spaghetti for dinner. No party. No celebration. "We don't want to make a fuss," she said, as if my 4 years of work were something to be quietly swept under the rug. 3 months later, Veronica graduated with a 2.9 in fashion merchandising. They rented out the banquet hall at Harborview Hotel. 200 guests, open bar, a slideshow of Veronica's journey. I stood in the back nursing a glass of champagne I'd paid for myself, watching our parents beam with pride. That night, I went home to my studio apartment, the first place I'd ever lived that was truly mine, and made a decision. I would build a life so successful, so undeniably impressive, that they couldn't ignore it. I would make them see me. I threw myself into work. Junior developer to senior engineer in 3 years. Side projects that turned into consulting gigs. Saving every bonus, every raise, every extra dollar. I dated occasionally, but nothing stuck. There was always another certification to earn, another promotion to chase, another way to prove I mattered. And through it all, I watched Veronica coast. She bounced between retail jobs, never staying longer than 6 months. When she couldn't make rent, Mom and Dad covered it. When her car broke down, they bought her a new one. When she complained about being stressed, they took her on vacation. "She needs more support," Mom would say whenever I pointed out the disparity. "You're doing so well on your own." Doing well meant being punished with neglect. Then Veronica met Cameron. Tall, handsome, chronically unemployed Cameron who had grand plans and no follow-through. They got engaged after 4 months. The wedding cost $60,000. I wasn't asked to be maid of honor. That went to Veronica's college roommate. I was a bridesmaid, standing in a $300 dress I'd bought myself, smiling for photos while Mom dabbed her eyes and talked about how perfect her daughter looked. When Veronica announced her pregnancy 6 months ago, I knew. I knew the gift-giving would reach new heights. I knew the baby would become another reason I didn't measure up. No children meant no grandchildren meant no real value in the family hierarchy, so I stopped telling them things. I didn't mention the promotion that came with a $30,000 raise. I didn't mention the house I was saving for. I certainly didn't mention Nathan, the architect I'd met at a tech conference who looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I met Nathan for dinner that night at Gracie's Bistro, our usual spot. He took one look at my face and ordered me a bourbon instead of my usual wine. That bad? Worse. I told him about the mansion, about standing there with my closing papers while my mother directed movers into my sister's palace, about the push present worth nearly $1 million while I'd celebrated my house purchase alone with takeout. Nathan listened, his jaw tightening. We'd been dating for 4 months, long enough that he'd heard the stories but hadn't witnessed the reality. Do they know what you make now? No. Do they know about the promotion? No. Do they know about me? I shook my head. He leaned back, studying me. Why not? Because they'll ruin it. They'll find a way to make it about Veronica. They always do. I finished the bourbon in one swallow. When I was 12, I won the state science fair. I worked for months on a project about water purification. I was so proud. Know what happened? Tell me. We went out to celebrate. 20 minutes into dinner, Veronica started crying because some boy at school hadn't asked her to the dance. The rest of the meal was about her broken heart. My trophy sat on the table, and nobody mentioned it again. Nathan reached across, taking my hand. I love you. The words hit me like cold water. We'd been circling around them for weeks, but he'd chosen this moment when I felt most worthless, to say them. You don't have to. I love you, he repeated. And I need you to hear something. You're not invisible. You're not second place. You're extraordinary, and your family is too blind to see it. I wanted to believe him. Instead, I felt the tears coming and hated myself for it. I just wanted them to see me. Just once. Was that too much to ask? No. His grip tightened. But maybe it's time to stop asking. What do you mean? Stop waiting for their approval. Stop hoping they'll change. They won't. He paused. But you can. I drove home that night with his words echoing in my head. Stop waiting for approval. Stop hoping they'll change. The idea was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. My phone rang as I pulled into my new driveway. Mom. Danielle, we need to talk about your attitude today. My attitude. Veronica called me upset. She said you made her feel guilty about the house. I didn't say anything to make her feel guilty. Your tone implied it. She's pregnant and stressed, and you know she's sensitive. I'm hanging up now. Don't you dare. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. And Dad's, and Veronica's, and Cameron's. The silence was deafening. For 3 weeks, I lived in blissful silence. I furnished my house. Nathan helped me paint the guest bedroom a soft sage green. We planted flowers in the front beds and hung curtains and christened every room with the kind of joy I'd never felt in any space my family occupied. Work was going well. My promotion had me leading a team of 5 developers on a major client project. The client was Riverside Property Development, one of the biggest real estate firms in the state. I'd been nervous about the scope, but we were ahead of schedule and under budget. Then Sabrina from HR called me into her office. Close the door, she said, her expression unreadable. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong? I had an interesting phone call this morning from a Veronica Sutton. She says she's your sister. Blood rushed to my ears. What did she want? She wanted to know about your salary, your benefits package, whether you were being considered for any upcoming promotions. Sabrina folded her hands on her desk. She said she was calling because your mother was worried about you and wanted to make sure you were being treated fairly. That's a lie. I know. I told her I couldn't disclose any employee information and ended the call. But Danielle, this is a red flag. If she's willing to call your workplace, what else might she do? I don't know. My hands were shaking. I've had them blocked for 3 weeks. I thought they'd given up. People like that don't give up. Sabrina's expression softened. Document everything. Every call, every contact, every attempt to reach you. If this escalates, you'll need a paper trail. I left her office feeling sick. How had they gotten my work number? I'd never listed it publicly. Then I remembered. I'd given it to Mom years ago for emergencies. This was an emergency in their minds. The emergency of me having boundaries. That night I found a letter shoved under my front door. My stomach lurched when I recognized Mom's handwriting. Danielle, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. Family doesn't block family. Your sister is beside herself thinking she's done something to hurt you. You owe her an apology. Call me immediately. Mom. I took a photo of the letter, then another. Then I put it in a folder I labeled Evidence. The next day, I came home to find a package on my porch. Inside was a baby blanket, hand-knitted, pink and yellow, with a note from Veronica. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to. The baby deserves to know her aunt. Please call me. V. More photos. More documentation. The third incident was Cameron showing up at my office. Security called me down, and there he was in the lobby, looking sheepish and uncomfortable. Your sister sent me, he said. She's really upset, Danielle. She thinks she did something wrong, but she doesn't know what. Tell her I'm busy. Come on. Just talk to her for 5 minutes. That's all she wants. No. Why are you being like this? We're family. I turned to the security guard. This man isn't authorized to be here. Please escort him out. Cameron's face reddened. You're really going to do this? Make a scene at your workplace? You made the scene by coming here. I'm just cleaning it up. After he left, I went back to my office and submitted a formal request to have all 3 of them added to my company's no trespass list. My manager, Greg, approved it without question. Family trouble? He asked. Something like that. Take whatever time you need. Your well-being comes first. But I didn't need time. I needed a plan. That weekend, Nathan and I were having coffee on my back deck when he asked the question I'd been avoiding. What do you want to happen here? Long term, I mean. I want them to leave me alone. And if they don't? I stared at my coffee. Then I want them to feel what I felt. All those years of being invisible, being less than, being tolerated instead of loved. I want them to understand. Understanding might not be possible, Nathan said carefully. People like that don't have empathy. They can't feel remorse for something they don't think they did wrong. Then I want them to hurt. The words hung in the air, ugly and honest. Nathan didn't flinch. Okay, then let's make them hurt. The trap was so simple I almost didn't believe it would work. I unblocked Mom's number. When she called, and she did within 10 minutes, I answered. Danielle, thank God. I've been so worried. I'll meet you for lunch. Saturday, Harborview Cafe. Just you. Silence. Then, cautiously. Just me? Just you. 1 hour. If you bring Dad or Veronica or Cameron, I'm leaving. Of course. Yes. Saturday. I'll be there. I hung up and immediately felt Nathan's hand on my shoulder. You ready for this? No, but let's do it anyway. Saturday arrived cold and rainy. I got to the cafe early, choosing a table by the window where I could watch Mom arrive. She came at exactly noon, umbrella clutched tight, looking older than I remembered. When had she gotten so gray? She sat down, purse in her lap, hands twisting together nervously. Thank you for agreeing to meet. You're welcome. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, at Veronica's house, about feeling like we don't support you. She paused. And I want you to know that's not true. We've always been proud of you. Have you? Of course. You're so strong, so independent. You don't need us the way Veronica does. There it was, the fundamental misunderstanding that had defined my entire life. Mom, do you remember my college graduation? She blinked. Of course. What did we do to celebrate? We we had dinner. We had spaghetti at home, garlic bread from a bag, store-bought cake. I kept my voice level. 3 months later, Veronica graduated. You rented a banquet hall for 200 people. That's different. Veronica had so many friends who wanted to celebrate. I had friends too. You never asked. Well, you never said you wanted a party. I shouldn't have had to ask. Mom's face pinched. I didn't come here to be attacked. I didn't come here to attack you. I came here to tell you something. I pulled out my phone and brought up a photo. This is my house. She leaned forward, squinting at the screen. It's lovely. This is my kitchen. This is the living room. This is the office where I work from home 2 days a week, making $145,000 a year. Her eyes widened. You make... This is Nathan. He's an architect. We've been dating for 4 months. He designed a custom bookshelf for my hallway. I scrolled through photos methodically. This is my car. Paid off. This is my savings account balance. This is my investment portfolio. Why are you showing me this? Because I wanted you to see what I built. Without your help. Without your money. Without your attention. I locked my phone. I wanted you to see me. Danielle, I don't understand why you're so angry. We gave Veronica that house because she needed it and I didn't. I know. I've heard it my whole life. I leaned forward. But here's what you don't understand. I didn't need your help because I never got it. I learned to survive without you. And now I'm thriving without you. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I felt the rage rising, hot and sharp. You charged me rent in college while paying for Veronica's dorm. You made me buy my own textbooks while sending her spending money. You threw her a $60,000 wedding while I wasn't even asked to be maid of honor. You bought her an $850,000 house for getting pregnant. $780,000? Mom corrected automatically, then flinched at her own words. Right, $780,000. My mistake. I stood up. Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to leave me alone. All of you. No more showing up at my house. No more calling my work. No more sending Cameron to ambush me. I'm done. You can't just cut us out of your life. Watch me. I walked out into the rain, leaving her sitting there with tears streaming down her face. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt empty. Nathan was waiting in his car. How'd it go? Exactly like we expected. Phase 2? Phase 2. I called Veronica. She answered on the first ring. Danielle? We need to talk. Oh, thank God, I've been so worried. I thought I'd done something. You did. But I'm willing to move past it if you're willing to listen. Of course. Anything? Saturday? My house. 3 o'clock. Bring Cameron. I hung up before she could respond. Nathan looked at me. You're enjoying this. Is that bad? No. He smiled. Just making an observation. Veronica and Cameron arrived at exactly 3 o'clock, right as the storm broke. They stood on my porch looking wet and miserable. And for a moment I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Come in, I said, stepping aside. They entered cautiously, like they were walking into a trap. Smart people would have been right. Your house is beautiful, Veronica said, taking in the hardwood floors and vaulted ceilings. It's so... you. Thank you. I'm glad you called. I hate fighting with you. She touched her stomach in that way pregnant women do, drawing attention to the life inside. The baby's moving a lot today. Want to feel? No. Her smile froze. Oh. Okay. Cameron cleared his throat. Listen, Danielle, we know things have been tense, but we're family. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Can we? I gestured to the couch. Sit. They sat. I remained standing. I asked you here because I want to make something clear. The house you're living in, the one Mom and Dad bought you, I could have bought that house. Cash. Veronica's face went pale. What? I make $145,000 a year. I have no debt. My savings account has $300,000 in it. I could have written a check for that house without blinking. But you said you bought a smaller place. I did. Because I don't need a 6-bedroom mansion. I need a home. There's a difference. I crossed my arms. But here's the thing, Veronica. Mom and Dad never offered to help me buy a house. They never offered me anything. And do you want to know why? She didn't answer. Because you take everything. Every bit of attention, every dollar, every ounce of energy they have goes to you. And you eat it up without ever asking if anyone else might be hungry too. That's not fair, Cameron said. Veronica's about to have a baby. She needs support. I needed support when I was 18 and working 40 hours a week to pay rent to live in my own childhood bedroom. Where was my support? That's different. It's not different. The shout came out of me like a gunshot. It's never different. It's always Veronica needs this. Veronica deserves that. Veronica is special. Well, I'm done. I'm done competing with someone who doesn't even know there's a competition. Veronica stood up, tears streaming. I never asked them to choose me over you. You didn't have to ask. You just let it happen. Year after year after year. You watched me struggle and said nothing. You watched them ignore me and said nothing. You took and took and took, and never once asked if maybe I needed something too. So what do you want from me? Her voice broke. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I'm sorry I didn't fight for you. I'm sorry I was the favorite. Is that what you want to hear? It's a start. Well, too bad, because I'm not sorry for being loved. She was yelling now, face red, hands shaking. I'm not sorry our parents chose to help me. I'm not sorry they wanted to give their grandchild a good home. And I'm not sorry you're jealous. There it was. The truth underneath all the excuses. Get out. Danielle. Get out. They left. The door slammed. And I stood in my beautiful living room feeling like I'd won a battle but lost something I couldn't name. Nathan found me there an hour later, sitting on the floor with my back against the couch. It didn't go well. It went exactly how I expected. I looked up at him. Why am I so tired? Because fighting people you love is exhausting, even when they deserve it. I don't love them anymore. Yes, you do. That's the problem. He was right. I hated that he was right. My phone buzzed. Dad. I'd unblocked him for the confrontation, and now I regretted it. Call me. Now. Then Mom. How dare you speak to your sister that way? She's pregnant. Then Veronica. You're a selfish person, and I hope you're happy alone. Then Cameron. You just lost your family over jealousy. Congratulations. The messages kept coming. Dozens of them. Each one a tiny knife, and then one more. From a number I didn't recognize. This is Sabrina Chen, Riverside Property Development. I'm the project manager you've been working with. We need to talk. Call me Monday. My blood went cold. What? Nathan leaned over to read the message. Why would she? I don't know. But I did know. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew. Monday morning, I called Sabrina Chen before I'd even had coffee. Danielle, thank you for calling. Her voice was professional but tight. I need to inform you that we're terminating our contract with your company, effective immediately. What? Why? I received a call Friday afternoon from someone claiming to be a concerned family member. They allege that you've been misrepresenting your qualifications and using company resources for personal gain. That's not true. None of that is true. I believe you, which is why I'm giving you this courtesy call. The accusations were clearly baseless, but our company has a policy about workplace drama affecting client relationships. Your management has been notified, and they're working on reassigning you. Who called you? I'm not at liberty to say. Was it my mother? My sister? Silence. I understand, I said quietly. Thank you for telling me. I hung up and immediately called Greg. I heard, he said before I could speak. Conference room. 10 minutes. The meeting was brutal. Greg, HR Director Patricia, and Legal Counsel Andrew sat across from me with identical expressions of concern. We're not firing you, Greg said. But we need to understand what's happening here. Someone is targeting you. My family. The words tasted like ash. I cut them off 3 weeks ago, and they've been escalating ever since. Patricia leaned forward. Escalating how? I told them everything. The blocked numbers, the letter under my door, Cameron showing up at the office, the lunch with Mom, the confrontation with Veronica. And now this. Someone calling my biggest client with false allegations. Do you have proof? Andrew asked. I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos, the letter, the texts, the emails, everything I'd been documenting. This is harassment, Patricia said flatly. We need to report this. To who? To the police. You need a restraining order. Against my own family? Against people who are trying to destroy your career? Andrew's expression was grim. If they're willing to interfere with your work, they're willing to do worse. I drove home in a fog. Nathan met me at the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. Tell me, I told him. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I have an idea. What kind of idea? The kind that gives you leverage. He pulled out his laptop. I've been doing some research. Your sister's house? What about it? It was purchased under your parents' names, but the deed lists Veronica and Cameron as residents with right of survivorship. That means if your parents die, the house goes directly to them, bypassing probate. So your parents are using it as a tax shelter. They're claiming it as an investment property and deducting the mortgage interest. But it's actually a gift. That's IRS fraud. I stared at him. How do you know this? I pulled public records. It's all legal information. But I doubt they realize how exposed they are. He turned the screen toward me. Here's the loan documents. Here's the property tax records. And here's the really interesting part. They claimed it as a rental property to get better interest rates. But there's no rental agreement on file. They're committing fraud. Several kinds, actually. And if someone were to report it to the IRS, there would be an audit. Penalties. Possible legal action. You're saying I should report my own parents to the IRS. I'm saying you have options. He closed the laptop. But you need to understand something. If you do this, there's no going back. This isn't just cutting them off. This is burning the bridge and salting the earth. I thought about the phone call to my client, the attempted sabotage, the years of being invisible, the $780,000 house I'd never get, the love I'd never receive. Burn it, I said. Nathan nodded. Then we need to be smart about this. We gather everything, every piece of documentation. We build a case so airtight they can't wriggle out. And we make sure you're protected. Protected how? Legally, financially, emotionally. He took my hand. I'm not letting them destroy you. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than rage or emptiness. I felt clarity. Okay, I said. Let's do this. The package arrived at my parents' house on a Tuesday morning. Overnight delivery. Signature required. Inside was a thumb drive containing every document Nathan and I had compiled: property records, loan documents, tax returns pulled from public filings, email correspondence I'd saved over the years showing the financial disparity between how they treated me versus Veronica, and a letter. Dear Mom and Dad, by now you've seen what's on this drive. I want you to understand that I didn't compile this information to hurt you. I compiled it to protect myself. When you called my client with false allegations about my work, you crossed a line. You tried to destroy my career because I wouldn't let you control my life anymore. That was your choice. This is mine. The information on this drive has been copied and sent to 3 separate parties: my attorney, my financial advisor, and yes, the IRS. I've filed a formal report about the fraudulent nature of Veronica's house purchase. The investigation has already begun. You have 2 options. Option 1, leave me alone. Permanently. No contact. No interference. No attempts to reach me through third parties. If you choose this option, I will cooperate with the IRS investigation, but I will not actively pursue criminal charges against you. The penalties will be financial, not criminal. Option 2. Continue your harassment. If you choose this option, I will pursue every legal avenue available. I will press charges for workplace harassment. I will sue for defamation, and I will testify against you in any criminal proceedings that result from the IRS investigation. You taught me to be self-sufficient. Congratulations. You succeeded. Danielle. The phone started ringing within an hour. First Dad, then Mom, then Veronica, then Cameron. I didn't answer any of them. I'd changed my number and only given the new one to Nathan, my attorney, and my boss. The texts came next, from their old numbers. Dad, you're destroying this family. Mom, how could you do this to your sister Veronica? I'm pregnant and you're causing stress that could harm the baby Cameron. You're a psychopath. I saved every message, sent copies to my attorney. Then, 3 days later, my doorbell rang at 11 p.m. I checked the security camera Nathan had installed and saw all 4 of them on my porch. Mom was crying. Dad looked furious. Veronica's face was blotchy and red. Cameron just looked defeated. I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke through the Ring camera. You need to leave. Now. Danielle, please. Mom's voice was desperate. We need to talk about this. No, you need to leave my property before I call the police. The IRS came to our house today, Dad said, his voice shaking. They're auditing everything. They're saying we could owe $200,000 in back taxes and penalties. They're talking about fraud charges. I know. You did this to us. Your own family. No. You did this to yourselves when you committed tax fraud. I just brought it to light. What do you want from us? Veronica screamed. What do you want? I wanted to be loved. I wanted to matter. I wanted you to see me. I felt tears burning behind my eyes but refused to let them fall. But you couldn't do that. So now I want you to leave me alone. Please, Mom sobbed. Please don't do this. We'll lose everything. You won't lose everything. You'll lose some money. You'll pay some penalties. You might have to sell Veronica's house to cover the debt. But you'll survive. You're survivors, remember? You don't need help. You'll figure it out. The silence that followed was deafening. That's what you said to me, I continued, my voice steady. When I was 18 and working myself to death to pay rent in my own childhood bedroom. When I was eating ramen for dinner every night. When I was graduating with honors and you couldn't be bothered to celebrate. You'll figure it out. You're so strong. You're so independent. That's not the same, Dad said. It's exactly the same. The only difference is that you chose to help Veronica and not me. Now I'm choosing not to help you. We're your parents. You were my parents. Past tense. Now you're just people who share my DNA. I took a breath. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the police. I'm counting. They left at 43 seconds. I watched through the camera as they walked to their car, Mom leaning heavily on Dad, Veronica crying, Cameron's arm around her shoulders. They looked broken. Small. I felt nothing. Nathan emerged from the bedroom where he'd been waiting. You okay? I don't know. He pulled me close and I let myself collapse against him. What happens now? I whispered. Now we wait. The IRS investigation will take months. Your attorney is handling the restraining order paperwork. And you heal. Will I? Eventually. But the story wasn't over yet. 2 weeks later, Veronica showed up at my office. Security called me down, and there she was, 9 months pregnant, clearly in distress. I'm in labor, she gasped. Cameron's at work. Mom and Dad won't answer their phones. I need help. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, to let her figure it out, to give her a taste of what I'd endured. But I couldn't. Come on, I said, grabbing her arm. My car's in the garage. I drove her to Riverside Hospital, holding her hand through contractions, calling Cameron from her phone, checking her in at admissions. When they wheeled her back to delivery, she grabbed my wrist. Why are you helping me? Because you're human, and because I'm not them. She started crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen before, but something raw and real. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. For everything. I know. No, you don't. You don't know what it was like growing up as the favorite, the pressure, the expectation that I would be perfect, the way they compared us and made you feel less so I could feel more. She gripped my hand tighter. I hated it. I hated knowing I was hurting you. But I didn't know how to stop it without losing everything. So you let it happen. So I let it happen. She closed her eyes, and I hate myself for it. Good, I said. You should. Veronica's daughter was born at 3:47 a.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect in every way. They named her Claire. I held her for exactly 2 minutes before handing her back to Veronica and leaving the hospital without saying goodbye. The IRS audit concluded 4 months later. My parents owed $187,000 in back taxes, penalties, and interest. They had to sell Veronica's mansion. The family moved into a modest 3-bedroom rental in a cheaper neighborhood. Dad took a second job. Mom stopped posting on social media. I knew all this because I was still friends with a few family connections on Facebook. I didn't reach out. They didn't reach out to me. The restraining order was granted. 3 years, renewable. None of them were allowed within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. Work got better. Greg gave me a new client portfolio, bigger than before. I got another promotion, another raise. Nathan and I got engaged on the anniversary of the day I bought my house. Life moved on. But sometimes, late at night, I would think about Veronica's face when she apologized, about the weight of being the favorite, about how both of us had been casualties of parents who loved conditionally and pitted us against each other from birth. 1 year after Claire was born, I received a letter. Not from Veronica, but from a lawyer. Dear Ms. Danielle Hart, I represent your sister Veronica Sutton in proceedings regarding her pending divorce from Cameron Sutton. As part of these proceedings, Mrs. Barb Sutton has requested that I reach out to you regarding a potential reconciliation. Mrs. Sutton acknowledges the harm done to you over many years and accepts full responsibility for her role in maintaining family dynamics that were unjust and hurtful. She does not expect forgiveness, but hopes you might be willing to allow supervised communication through legal channels. She has specifically requested that you know the following. She is currently receiving therapy for codependency and narcissistic family systems. She has ceased all contact with your parents. She is working to build a life independent of their financial support and emotional manipulation. If you are willing to consider contact, please respond to this letter. If not, Mrs. Sutton will respect your decision. I stared at the letter for 3 days. On the third day, I wrote back. One letter, supervised, in 6 months. No promises after that. Veronica's response came through the lawyer. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. When we finally met, in a conference room with the lawyer present, she was different. Thinner, tired. But there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Clarity. Thank you for coming, she said. I almost didn't. I know. She pushed a manila envelope across the table. This is every penny Mom and Dad gave me over the years. I had an accountant go through everything. Birthday money, Christmas gifts, the car, the wedding, the house down payment. All of it. It totals $643,000. Veronica, I'm not giving it to you. I can't. I don't have it. She opened the envelope. But I calculated what half would be. $321,500, and I'm going to pay you back. I set up a payment plan. $2,000 a month until it's done. It'll take me 13 years, but I'm going to do it. That's ridiculous. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. It's about what you deserve. And you deserved half of everything they gave me. So I'm giving it to you. She slid a check across the table. This is the first payment. I looked at the check. $2,000. From an account in Veronica's name only. Why? Because you were right. About everything. And because I want my daughter to grow up knowing her aunt. But I can't ask you to let me back in without proving I've changed. So I'm proving it. We met twice more over the next 6 months. Always supervised, always brief. She told me about leaving Cameron, about standing up to our parents, about the slow, painful process of becoming someone she could respect. I told her about my engagement, about my career, about building a life that wasn't defined by their neglect. On our 4th meeting, I brought Nathan. This is important to me, I told him the night before. I need you to meet her. Veronica and Nathan circled each other like wary cats before she finally said, Thank you for loving my sister when our family couldn't. Loving her is easy, Nathan replied. She's extraordinary. I know, I just forgot for a while. I stood between them, these two people who represented such different parts of my life, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, eventually, something like peace. My parents never apologized. I never expected them to. We exist in parallel universes now, occasionally seeing each other's shadows on social media, never reaching out, never looking back. Nathan and I got married at City Hall on a Tuesday afternoon. Veronica was there, holding Claire. It was the first time my niece had met her aunt. After the ceremony, Veronica pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, she said, for building this life, for walking away when you needed to, for being strong enough to survive us. I'm surviving, I agreed. That's all I'm doing. No. She shook her head. You're not surviving. You're thriving. And you did it despite them. Despite me. That takes courage I didn't know was possible. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. And saw someone I barely recognized. Someone humbled. Someone real. Keep sending the checks, I said. She smiled. Every month. For 13 years. Good. We hugged. It was awkward and brief, and nothing like the sisterhood we'd never had as children. But it was a start. Nathan and I bought a bigger house 2 years later. 5 bedrooms, because we wanted kids. A proper office for him. A workshop for me. Space to grow. I paid cash. Veronica sent a card. Congratulations. You earned it. Mom and Dad sent nothing. I didn't expect them to. The betrayal doesn't hurt anymore. Not in the sharp, immediate way it once did. Now it's just a scar. Visible, permanent. but no longer bleeding. I built a life they couldn't touch, a family they couldn't ruin, a success they couldn't diminish. They taught me to be self-sufficient. I learned the lesson too well. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they'd just loved me equally. If they'd celebrated my achievements the way they'd celebrated Veronica's. If they'd seen me as more than a tool to make my sisters shine brighter. But mostly, I don't wonder anymore. I'm too busy living the life I built from nothing, and it's beautiful. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Formidable Revenge channel. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's always worth the fight. Comment below. Have you ever had to choose between family and self-respect? I'm reading every comment. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge is becoming the person they never thought you could be.